Getty Images and Shutterstock announced a merger on January 7 of this year. We know that mergers happen for a reason, to maximize shareholders' profits, right? But what does it mean for us, stock photographers? Is it good or bad news? More details will follow, but my take is that it's probably not a good news for freelance photographers. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My wife and I are stock photographers based in the US. We have been doing stock photography since 2015 and make a living off it. Let's come back to Getty and Shutterstock. The press release pointed out that this is a merger of equals. This means that these two companies are of similar size. The surviving company after the merger will bear the name of Getty Images Holdings. In other words, Shutterstock's name as a company will disappear. Likely everything else will remain in place, like Shutterstock website and such. First, let's understand this merger without going into too many arcane details. Before this merger, Getty and Shutterstock generated similar revenue numbers. For instance, Getty got $918 million for the past year. Shutterstock had $902 million in sales. Let me give you a perspective. The value of the global stock photography market ranges between $4 and $6 billion in 2023, depending on who you ask. So the combined company of Shutterstock and Getty will command anywhere from 25 to 40% market share. So the question becomes, will the antitrust government authorities approve of this merger? And the way I see it, they will probably, because the concentration is not particularly high after the merger. But we definitely see that the stock photography market is getting more and more concentrated. In previous videos, we said that the stock photography industry is maturing, and a merger like this one is a prime sign of this. In other words, there's too much stock content chasing the same number of customers. And on top of it, the sales growth rates have slowed down big time over the past several years for major players. For instance, take years before 2020. It was perfectly normal for Shutterstock to register sales growth rates in the realm of 20 to 30% or more. Now it's in single digits at best. For this reason, bigger players are looking for growth outside of their platforms. Acquiring other companies is one of those avenues to achieve growth. It's not news that consolidation is taking place in the stock photography industry. In 2022, Shutterstock acquired Pond5, and in 2024 they acquired Inveto. So this Getty Shutterstock merger is something to expect. As organic growth rates slowed down, stock content companies started looking elsewhere for profits. Besides acquisitions, the other obvious way is to cut costs. Let's take a look at Shutterstock numbers to understand where all this is coming from. For instance, take the year of 2023. Shutterstock generated $875 million in sales. Next are expenses. Shutterstock's biggest expense is cost of revenues at $348 million. Cost of revenues aggregates payments to contributors, content reviewers, and other staff. But contributor payout represents the largest share of cost of revenues. One obvious way to increase profits is to lower these payouts. This is exactly what happened in 2020. As we know, Shutterstock introduced tiers with content sales thresholds. There are, of course, other expenses that Shutterstock can cut. One of them is selling, general, and administrative. But this is easier said than done. There's so much fat left to trim before cost cutting can backfire. In other words, if you cut too much, your business can suffer. But what about cutting payouts to contributors? Well, there are many of them. They are small and they can do little about it since they depend so much on Shutterstock for their income. And it's not like people can leave Shutterstock and replace that lost income one for one elsewhere. So cutting contributors' royalties is the most obvious way to go after. Now, let's compare Shutterstock to Getty. Getty's revenues in 2023 were in the same ballpark, around $917 million, but their cost of revenues are much lower, at about $250 million. If we calculate the cost of revenues as a percentage of sales, it was 27% for Getty and 40% for Shutterstock. In other words, Shutterstock pays out more money to contributors out of its sales than Getty. Is this surprising? Not exactly. If we look at Getty's contributor payout structure, here's what we see. Getty has one of the lowest non-exclusive percentages in the industry for stock photos at 15%. Non-exclusive stock footage earns 20%. This is also one of the lowest percentages in the industry. In comparison, yes, Shutterstock has its tiers. These tiers go off licensing numbers and reset each year. But if you're a large volume stock photographer, you can go through these tiers pretty fast. It is common to hit 30 or 35% payout in a matter of months. This is not the case for Getty. Their non-exclusive payouts stay the same no matter what. Of course, Getty offers better rates for exclusive contributors, but they also come with their own download thresholds. To be honest with you, I always wondered how many exclusive Getty contributors are out there. I mean, no matter how we sliced and diced it, just going exclusive with Getty never made financial sense to us. So I find it kind of perplexing and funny how these corporations tout their high exclusive rates, and at the same time they turn around and cut non-exclusive rates to the bone. So what does this merger between Getty and Shutterstock mean for stock photographers like you and me? I always said that there's more room for payout reductions. Do you know what happened when Shutterstock acquired Pond5 a few years ago? That's right, they lowered non-exclusive rates from 40 to 30%. What do you think will happen to Shutterstock contributor payouts after this merger? I have only one answer. It will almost for sure go down. Let's get it straight. Getty is taking over Shutterstock, which has higher payouts to non-exclusive contributors. It makes 100% business sense for Getty to align Shutterstock non-exclusive rates with their own. I don't exactly know what this will look like. Most likely they merge everything into one uniform payout schedule. Currently, Shutterstock doesn't do exclusive work with contributors, at least publicly. Well, Getty may introduce exclusive versus non-exclusive tiers to Shutterstock too. They may also lower Shutterstock non-exclusive percentages and make them fixed like what Getty does now. I also think that Getty may increase Shutterstock's thresholds to hit higher payouts. As it stands now, Getty demands higher download volumes compared to Shutterstock. Most likely we will see another press release sent to contributors. It will say how difficult of a decision it was for them to lower rates, and still they must do it to stay competitive or whatever. But in reality, it's all about bottom line. The goal of these corporations is to maximize their profits, not yours or mine. But they must be careful and not to alienate contributors. If the payouts are too low, they may risk losing us. Still, I definitely see more room for further reductions. For instance, I think Pond5 will see further reduction in its payouts, or at least an introduction of tiers. It is inevitable in the stock photography industry, which is slowing down big time. There are a few more details on the Getty and Shutterstock merger I want to mention. They expect to realize about $175 million in cost savings, likely because they can get rid of certain duplicate functions. Getty faces an urgency to reduce its debt pile, which stands at $1.3 billion. They were paying $140 million in interest on it a year, which devoured over 15% of their revenues. This is bad and somewhat risky for them. Conversely, Shutterstock had little bank debt at all, so this will help the combined company to pay off debt faster. Is there upside from this merger for stock photographers? Getty promises a wider reach to a larger base of customers across its platforms. In other words, there's a potential for higher volume of sales for stock photographers. Of course, I have my doubts. I mean, we were fine as it was. And if the contributor payout reductions materialize in the future, they will negate this benefit of wider reach. So this merger will most likely be positive for Getty and Shutterstock, and it's understandable why. But I don't see it as net positive for stock photographers. A bigger player with a 25 to 40% market share will have a bigger effect on contributors than before. When Shutterstock cut their payouts in 2020, yes, we saw reductions in our payments from them. but our income from elsewhere stay the same or compensated to some extent, for instance from Adobe stock. Now, it will be a completely different matter after this merger. The reductions in payments to contributors from Getty will be more pronounced for stock photographers. It is just unavoidable math. What can stock photographers do? I mean, there's nothing that we can do to prevent these companies to reduce the payouts. I mean, if the stock photography income is secondary to you, you can of course boycott and delete your accounts there. But for someone who depends on stock photography income to make a living, this is just not an option. If reductions become a reality, we can compensate with higher upload volumes, or do something else with our time, of course. In my previous videos linked here, I mentioned a few ideas. Among them are doing real estate photography or drones. These are just some pointers for photographers. There are always weddings and for higher photography jobs. Look, it is still possible to make it in stock photography today, but the way things are evolving, it is becoming much and much tougher. And that's just our opinion. And my goal here was to be as honest as I can be with you. And that'll be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more actionable content on stock photography and travels in the future. I will see you next time, and all the best.